Have you ever wondered if there are warning signs before an elderly person passes away? I recently spoke with a family who shared something heartbreaking with me. They said, if only we had known what to look for, we would have spent that time differently. Their 83-year-old father had shown subtle changes for months, but they dismissed them as normal aging. It was only looking back that they realized his body had been sending signals almost a year before he passed. The truth is, death in old age rarely happens without warning. The body often sends quiet messages months, sometimes even a full year, before life reaches its final stage. The problem is that most people miss these signs because they seem small at first. It is only later looking back that families realize the clues were there all along. By then, it is too late to prepare, too late to make those last memories count. In this video, we are going to explore 5 key signs that often appear in the year before an elderly person passes away. Some might be changes you've noticed but brushed off as just part of aging. Others might seem minor but actually signal the body's gradual decline. Recognizing these signs early gives you the opportunity to provide better care, cherish meaningful moments, and most importantly, ensure your loved one's final stage of life is filled with comfort, dignity, and peace. Don't miss the final insight. It's one that most people overlook, yet it holds incredible power in predicting what lies ahead. These markers could completely reshape how you see your future and add valuable years to your life. If this has sparked your interest, show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and sharing this video with those you care about. Together, let us make informed choices for a healthier, longer life. Sign 1. Significant weight loss. One of the earliest and most telling signs that a person may be approaching the final year of their life is unintentional weight loss. At first, it might seem subtle. A belt that suddenly needs tightening, clothes that appear looser, or a hearty appetite that begins to fade. Many families dismiss it as just part of getting older, but the truth is that losing weight without trying is rarely a good sign. This weight loss often indicates that the body is no longer absorbing nutrients efficiently, muscle mass is decreasing, and essential systems are slowing down. Aging naturally leads to some loss of muscle, but when it happens too quickly, it is a sign that something deeper is occurring. The body may be struggling to digest food properly, or the person may no longer be able to process protein effectively, leading to muscle wasting. This loss of strength doesn't just make movement more difficult. It increases the risk of falls, weakens the immune system, and leaves the person vulnerable to infections. Consider Sarah's 78-year-old mother, Eleanor. For years, Eleanor had maintained a steady weight of about 145 pounds. She enjoyed cooking for herself and always finished her meals. But over the course of 6 months, her daughter noticed that Eleanor had lost about 15 pounds without trying. Her clothes hung loosely, and she often left food on her plate, saying she just wasn't hungry anymore. Sarah assumed it was just part of aging, maybe even a good thing since her mother had always wanted to lose a few pounds. But what she didn't realize was that this weight loss was her mother Anne's body beginning to shut down. The appetite changes weren't just a matter of preference. They were a physiological signal that Eleanor's body was starting to conserve energy and redirect resources. Many elderly individuals simply don't feel hungry the way they used to. Their sense of taste fades, food no longer seems enjoyable, and they might start skipping meals or eating much smaller portions. This isn't just a matter of preference. It is a physiological change, the body sensing that it is beginning to shut down and no longer signaling the brain to seek food as often. The result is less energy, less strength, and a gradual decline in overall health. Then there's the role of underlying medical conditions. Weight loss is a common symptom of chronic diseases like cancer, heart failure, or kidney disease, all of which can begin progressing long before more obvious symptoms appear. Even conditions like depression or cognitive decline can lead to reduced eating, causing a downward spiral where the body is not receiving enough fuel to sustain itself. What can you do if you notice this sign? First, don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Here are some practical steps. Instead of forcing large meals, offer smaller, nutrient-dense options throughout the day. Think of it as quality over quantity. A small protein shake, a few bites of salmon, or a handful of nuts can provide essential nutrients without overwhelming them. Make mealtimes social and calm. Sometimes having company or creating a pleasant atmosphere can encourage eating. Remove distractions like TV and keep conversations positive. Consider consulting with their doctor about appropriate supplements that might help maintain their strength. Sometimes liquid nutrition supplements can be easier to consume than solid food. Most importantly, shift your focus from trying to reverse the weight loss to ensuring comfort and quality of life. This isn't TT about giving up. It is about understanding that the body is going through a natural transition and adjusting your care accordingly. If you notice significant weight loss in an elderly loved one, especially if they re-eating less, feeling weaker, or struggling to stay active, it is time to pay attention. This is not just about physical appearance. It is about the body sending a message, and understanding that message now can help you prepare for the road ahead, with clarity, compassion, and the ability to make every remaining moment meaningful. Sign 2. Extreme fatigue and weakness. One of the most noticeable changes in the year leading up to the end of life is a deep, persistent fatigue that doesn't go away with rest. It is not just feeling a little tired after a long day. It is a profound exhaustion that makes even simple tasks feel overwhelming. Getting out of bed becomes a challenge, walking across the room requires effort, and activities that once felt routine, like cooking, dressing, or even holding a conversation, start to feel too draining. This is not just a result of aging, it is a sign that the body is conserving its remaining energy. As organ function begins to slow, the body starts prioritizing what is most essential. The heart doesn't pump as efficiently, circulation weakens, and muscles don't get the same level of oxygen they once did. This is why many elderly individuals in their final months feel weak, unsteady, and unable to sustain the same level of activity they once enjoyed. Take Thomas, a 77-year-old retired teacher who had always been active and engaged. He walked 2 miles every morning, tended to his garden, and rarely missed his weekly bridge game with friends. But his daughter Melissa began noticing changes. First, he shortened his daily walks to just around the block. Then he started taking afternoon naps, something he had never done before. Eventually, even a trip to the mailbox left him winded and needing to rest. "Dad, are you feeling okay?" she'd ask, and he'd reply, "Just a bit tired today. I'll be fine tomorrow." But tomorrow came, and the fatigue remained. What Thomas and his family didn't realize was that his body was experiencing a metabolic slowdown. The body is designed to produce and use energy, but as it prepares for its final phase, that energy gets redirected. Instead of fueling movement, the body shifts toward preservation. This is why someone in decline may start sleeping more, needing longer naps during the day, and finding it harder to stay awake for long periods. Some may even experience sudden drops in energy where they seem fine one moment but completely drained the next. Melissa noticed this pattern with her father. He'd be engaged in conversation over breakfast, then suddenly need to lie down, as if all his energy had evaporated in an instant. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part of this process is the emotional impact of fatigue. Many seniors who once took pride in their independence begin feeling frustrated or even embarrassed that they can do what they used to. They may withdraw from conversations, avoid social interactions, or stop engaging in hobbies, not because they don't care, but because they simply don't have the energy. This can lead to a cycle of isolation where they stop trying altogether, which only accelerates the decline. Thomas eventually stopped attending his bridge games, saying it was too much effort, and began declining dinner invitations from family, preferring to stay home where he could rest when needed. If you notice a loved one experiencing this kind of fatigue, here's how you can help. First, adjust your expectations. Instead of encouraging them to push through it or try harder, accept that their energy limits are real and physical. Plan activities for their highest energy times of day, usually in the morning, and keep them brief. Create a restful environment. Ensure they have a comfortable place to sit or lie down in every room they frequent. Consider a recliner that makes it easy to put their feet up without having to move to a bedroom. Help them prioritize their energy for what matters most. If getting dressed and going out to lunch would exhaust them for days, perhaps bringing a special meal home and enjoying it together is a better option. Most importantly, focus on quality over quantity. A 5-minute conversation where they feel truly present and engaged might be more meaningful than an hour where they are struggling to stay awake or participate. For families watching a loved one go from active and engaged to exhausted and withdrawn, it can be painful. It is easy to assume they read just being lazy or that they need to push through it, but the reality is that forcing activity won't help. What matters most is understanding their limits, allowing them to rest when needed, and making their remaining days as comfortable as possible. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you are here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating content that matters. Now, let us move forward. Sign 3. Increasing cognitive confusion or withdrawal. As a person approaches the final stage of life, one of the most striking changes can be seen in how they think, communicate, and interact with others. You may notice that someone who was once sharp and engaged starts to forget things more often, struggles to follow conversations, or seems disoriented in familiar places. They may repeat themselves, forget names, or lose track of time, even when they never had memory issues before. These subtle cognitive changes can happen months or even a full year before death. This isn't just everyday forgetfulness. The brain, like any other organ, requires a steady flow of oxygen and nutrients to function properly. But as circulation weakens and oxygen supply to the brain decreases, cognitive function starts to decline. Consider Martha, age 84, who had always been the family historian, remembering birthdays, anniversaries, and keeping track of what everyone was doing. Her grandson Michael noticed that during their weekly phone calls, she started asking the same questions multiple times. Then she began mixing up family members' names, something she'd never done before. One day she called him worried because she couldn't remember how to make her signature chocolate cake, a recipe she'd used for over 50 years. The person may become easily confused, have difficulty making decisions, or struggle to recognize people and places they've known for years. In some cases, they may even have brief moments of lucidity, followed by sudden episodes of confusion, almost as if their mind is fading in and out. Martha would sometimes have perfectly clear conversations about complex family matters, then minutes later, ask Michael when he was going to graduate from college, something that had happened 15 years earlier. These fluctuations confused her family, making them wonder if she was just having bad days rather than experiencing a significant cognitive change. Another common sign is emotional withdrawal. Someone nearing the end of life often loses interest in social interactions. You might notice them speaking less, engaging less, or spending long periods simply sitting in silence. It is not that they don't care about their loved ones. It is that their brain no longer processes emotions and engagement the same way. Conversations become tiring, loud environments feel overwhelming, and eventually, many seniors retreat into their own world. Martha, who had always been social and talkative, gradually became quieter during family gatherings. She would sit at the table, smiling occasionally, but rarely joining the conversation. When asked direct questions, her answers became shorter, often just yes or no. She stopped asking about other family members and seemed content to simply observe rather than participate. You may also notice changes in mood and behavior. Some individuals become more irritable, anxious, or easily frustrated. Others seem unusually calm, detached, or indifferent to things that once mattered to them. This isn't just a personality shift. It is often a result of the brain adjusting to the body's decline. As cognitive function slows, emotions become harder to express, and the person may stop reacting to situations in the way they used to. For family members, this stage can be especially difficult. Watching a loved one lose touch with reality or pull away emotionally can feel like losing them before they actually gone. But it is important to remember this isn't something they can control. If you notice these cognitive changes in someone you love, here are some ways to help. Simplify your communication. Use short, clear sentences and give them time to process what you are saying. Don't rush them or finish their sentences even if they're struggling to find words. Create a calm, familiar environment. Too much stimulation can increase confusion and anxiety. Keep noise levels down, minimize clutter, and maintain a consistent routine to help them feel secure. Use gentle reminders rather than corrections. Instead of saying, "No, that's not right," try redirecting with, "I think it happened this way," or simply go along with their version of events when it doesn't matter. Most importantly, focus on emotional connection rather than factual accuracy. Even when memory fails, emotions remain. A gentle touch, a familiar song, or simply sitting together quietly can be more meaningful than trying to have a logical conversation. Instead of trying to bring them back into conversations, the best thing you can do is meet them where they are. Speak gently, offer reassurance, and understand that even if they don't always respond, they can still feel your presence. If a loved one is becoming more forgetful, more confused, or less engaged, don't ignore it. These are often early signs that the body and mind are preparing for the final transition. This is a time to be patient, cherish quiet moments, and focus on creating an environment that feels safe, familiar, and peaceful. Because even when words fade, love and comfort can still be felt. Sign 4. Frequent infections and slow healing. As the body begins to wind down, one of the clearest physical signs is a weakened immune system. You might notice that someone who rarely got sick before now seems to catch every cold, every flu, every small infection that goes around. What used to be minor illnesses now take much longer to recover from, and simple wounds like a small cut or bruise heal at a noticeably slower rate. These changes aren't random. They are signs that the body is no longer able to defend and repair itself the way it once did. Take Robert, age 81, who had always been known for his robust health. Rarely sick, he prided himself on never even catching the common cold. But his daughter Caroline began noticing a troubling pattern. First, it was a lingering cough that didn't clear up for weeks. Then a small cut on his hand from gardening took over a month to heal completely. When he developed a urinary tract infection that required 2 rounds of antibiotics to clear, Caroline realized something had changed fundamentally in her father's body. One of the biggest concerns is repeated infections. Pneumonia, urinary tract infections, UTIs, skin infections, and even oral infections become more common as the immune system weakens. Many families assume these are just isolated illnesses, but when they start happening frequently or take a long time to clear up, it is often a sign that the body is losing its ability to fight back. Even antibiotics, which once worked quickly, may seem less effective. The person may need stronger medications, longer recovery periods, or multiple rounds of treatment for infections that once would have been minor. This happens because as circulation slows and organ function declines, the body simply doesn't respond to treatment as well. Another overlooked issue is chronic wounds. If you notice that small scratches, sores, or bruises aren't healing properly or keep reopening, it could mean that circulation is compromised. Poor blood flow means that oxygen and nutrients aren't reaching the skin and tissues efficiently, making healing much slower than usual. Pressure sores, especially for those who are less mobile, become a serious risk and can lead to dangerous infections if not carefully managed. Caroline noticed that her father's skin seemed to bruise more easily, and what would have been minor bumps before now left marks that lingered for weeks. She also observed that a small pressure sore developed on his heel after just 1 day of wearing new shoes, something that would never have happened before. What is even more concerning is that infections in the final year of life often don't look the way we expect. Instead of a high fever, an elderly person may simply seem more tired than usual, more confused, or less interested in eating. In fact, for seniors, a sudden decline in mental alertness is often the first warning sign of an infection, even before other symptoms appear. This is why recognizing these changes early can make a difference in how much comfort and support they receive in their final stage of life. If you notice these signs of weakened immunity and slow healing, here is how you can help. Be vigilant about prevention. Good hygiene becomes even more critical. Ensure they re-washing hands regularly, especially before meals. Keep their living environment clean, particularly bathrooms and kitchens where bacteria can thrive. Inspect their skin regularly, especially in areas prone to pressure sores like heels, tailbone, and elbows. Early intervention can prevent small issues from becoming serious wounds. Support their immune system with proper nutrition. Even if their appetite is reduced, try to ensure they're getting enough protein, vitamins, and hydration to give their body the best chance at fighting infection. Be alert to subtle changes in behavior or alertness. as these might be the first sign of infection in an elderly person. Don't wait for obvious symptoms like fever or pain. Trust your instincts if something seems off. For families watching a loved one go through repeated infections, it can be frustrating and heartbreaking. It is tempting to push for aggressive treatments, hoping that one more round of antibiotics or one more hospital stay will fix the problem. But at a certain point, the focus often shifts from curing to comforting. Making sure they stay hydrated, keeping their skin clean and moisturized, and minimizing stress on the body can do more for their well-being than another round of medication that only prolongs suffering. If you are still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating content that matters. Now, let us move forward. Sign 5. Major changes in breathing or circulation. One of the most telling signs that the body is preparing for its final stage is a noticeable change in breathing patterns and circulation. You may notice that your loved one breathes more slowly or shallowly than before. At times, they might pause between breaths or their breathing might become irregular, speeding up and then slowing down unexpectedly. Some people experience a gentle rhythmic breathing pattern called Cheney-Stokes respiration, where breathing alternates between deep, rapid breaths and long pauses. These changes can start subtly, but over time they become more pronounced and more frequent. Elizabeth noticed this with her 85-year-old mother, Grace. At first it was just a slight change. Grace would occasionally seem to hold her breath for a moment before continuing. Over time, these pauses became more noticeable, especially when she was resting. Elizabeth also observed that sometimes her mother's breathing would become rapid and shallow for several minutes, then slow down again. These weren't dramatic episodes that required immediate medical attention, but they were clearly different from how Grace had breathed her entire life. Another common sign is weakened circulation. You may notice that their hands, feet, or even their nose and ears start feeling cold to the touch. The skin may appear pale, bluish, or mottled, especially around the fingers and toes. This happens because the body is prioritizing blood flow to vital organs, reducing circulation to the extremities. It is a clear indication that the heart is not pumping as strongly as before. Elizabeth began to notice that her mother's hands felt cool even in a warm room. At first, she just brought extra blankets, but then she observed a subtle bluish tint to her mother's fingertips and a mottled pattern on her arms. When Grace complained that her feet were always cold, no matter how many socks she wore, Elizabeth recognized these weren't just comfort issues. They were signs of changing circulation. Some people also experience more shortness of breath, even with minimal movement. Simply sitting up, speaking, or shifting positions might cause them to feel winded or out of breath. You may notice them breathing through their mouth more often, or they may suddenly need to stop and catch their breath while talking. If they were once able to walk across the room easily but now struggle to do so, their lung function may be declining. In some cases, fluid buildup in the lungs can make breathing more difficult. This can cause a persistent cough, gurgling sounds, or even a feeling of tightness in the chest. Many people assume it's just congestion from a cold, but in elderly individuals nearing the end of life, it's often a sign that the lungs are weakening. This can make lying flat uncomfortable, and they may prefer to sleep propped up on pillows or in a recliner to ease their breathing. For family members seeing these changes, it can be frightening. It is natural to want to help, to encourage them to take deeper breaths, or to worry that something urgent is happening. But in many cases, this is simply the body's natural way of slowing down. There may not always be a way to reverse these changes, but there are ways to make them more comfortable. If you notice these breathing and circulation changes, here are some ways to help. Elevate their head and upper body when resting or sleeping. Extra pillows or an adjustable bed can make breathing easier and reduce the feeling of breathlessness. Keep the room cool and well ventilated. A fan can help circulate air and give the sensation of easier breathing, even when lung function is declining. For cold extremities, provide warm, not hot socks and gloves, and use layers of light blankets rather than one heavy one. This allows for better temperature regulation. Avoid rushing or hurrying them, as this can increase feelings of breathlessness. Plan for extra time with all activities and allow plenty of rest between movements. Sometimes simply sitting quietly with them, matching your breathing to theirs, can provide comfort and reduce anxiety about breathing difficulties. In these final months or weeks, the most important thing you can give them isn't medical intervention. It is comfort, dignity, and the knowledge that they are not alone. Sitting with them, holding their hand, and simply being present can provide more peace than any treatment. If you notice these signs, changes in breathing, cold hands and feet, or a bluish tint to the skin, pay attention. These are often indicators that the body is conserving energy and that circulation is slowing down. It is a time to be present, offer reassurance, and create a peaceful environment where they feel safe and at ease. As we come to the end of this video, take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. Significant weight loss, extreme fatigue, cognitive decline, frequent infections, and major changes in breathing and circulation. These 5 signs often appear in the year leading up to an elderly person's passing. They may not all happen at once and they may not always be obvious at first, but when you start noticing them, it is a sign that the body is preparing for its final transition. For many families, these changes can be difficult to accept. It is natural to want to fight against them, to encourage a loved one to eat more, move more, or push through exhaustion. But sometimes the best thing we can do is listen to what their body is telling us. Instead of focusing on trying to reverse the inevitable, we can focus on making their remaining time as peaceful, comfortable, and meaningful as possible. Understanding these signs isn't about fearing death. It is about being prepared for it. When you recognize these changes early, you can offer better care, make important decisions ahead of time, and ensure that your loved one's final months are filled with love and dignity. This is a time for cherishing moments, sharing stories, and letting them know they are valued and not alone. Remember Maria, who recognized these signs in her 90-year-old father? Instead of pushing him to eat more or stay active when his body was clearly slowing down, she adjusted her expectations. She brought family members to visit in small groups so he wouldn't be overwhelmed. She recorded his stories and memories when he had the energy to share them. She made sure his room was comfortable, with photos of loved ones where he could see them. And most importantly, she sat with him, held his hand, and made sure he knew he was loved. And I couldn't stop what was happening when she told me later, but I could make sure his final months were peaceful. And that gives me comfort now. If you'd re-noticing these signs in someone close to you, take a deep breath and remember, you are not alone in this journey. Many families have walked this path before, and while it is never easy, knowing what to expect can help you find strength, patience, and peace. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.